Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. We're going to give it another minute or two. We've got a lot of attendees, and I see that number just ticking up here as people join. Thank you for joining us this Thursday afternoon before what I hope is a long weekend for many people. I know personally I'll be on vacation next week, so I'm looking forward to that. We have some exciting updates to share, some of which have rolled out, some things that are coming soon, some things that are rolling out next week even. So we're excited that you all are joining us today. Again, we'll give it just another minute or two.
Where are you going on vacation, Chris?
We are going to Florida.
Oh, nice.
My dad retired to Florida, and we all go down there for a week most summers. Charlie has been taking swimming classes this last month and
Oh, great.
loves the pool and is very excited.
Good. We did that in advance of our Florida trip too.
Awesome. All right. Well, Haley, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Well, like Chris said, we're happy to have all of y'all joining us today. And I'm Haley Whitworth. I'm the head of training and marketing. And Chris, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm head of product and strategy, and excited to be on this webinar with everybody today.
Our agenda is pretty straightforward. We're going to go over some of the items that have recently been released, and then we'll talk through, and in fact, Chris will be talking through mostly some of the items that you will be seeing soon. We'll talk about some announcements and, of course, answer any questions. So if you have any questions that pop up as we are talking through any of this, feel free to put it in the chat. And we have Will Whitworth with us as well, and he's going to try to answer some of your questions as those are coming in. All right, Chris. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing because I think you want to share, correct?
Awesome. Yes, I will share my screen and share the first part of this on some live databases. So here, what you're seeing right now is the new menu. And so in case you haven't seen this, this was something that was released earlier this quarter. If you haven't seen it, it's because you likely just have not clicked on your profile up here and toggled on the new navigation. Probably going to be removing this beta label here soon because we made some enhancements to this recently. There were a few items that we found were missing that we've added into this, but we basically reorganized this now where it's several different tiers. Another change that you'll notice is that reports now show under people or involvements or finance or admin, depending on what those reports are. So this really gives a lot more room to create custom reports. One of the catalysts for this was just because our menu is getting so big and we're actually adding some new features, and we had kind of run out of place to put various things. And so some of that you're actually going to see here on today's call, and some of it are some things that we're going to be talking about at the summit in September. So that's a plug. If you haven't signed up for Summit, please join us. There's some things that we'll be launching there or that we'll be talking about there that will make it into some of these menus. And so we'd encourage you to check out the new menu. It is currently set to be the old menu, but we will later this summer, probably sometime in July, be toggling this setting on for everybody so that everybody has a chance to see and get used to the new menu. We will still leave the old menu there where you can toggle this off and be able to see things, but at some point we will be removing the old menu. And as we release new features, they will only be showing up in the new menu. So that is something you should be aware of, and we'd encourage you to check it out. It is a little bit to get used to because we moved some cheese, but I think you'll notice that things are much more intuitively organized and easier to find once you get used to it. So we'd encourage you to check that out. The next big thing I wanted to talk about is the finance enhancements. So in case you missed the webinar on this that we did back in April, we also released some FAQ and all updated documentation. We have rolled out phase 1 of our major finance enhancements that we're working on. And that entails updates to the batches, pledges, and account codes. And so I want to go over this. First and foremost, on this page, there's all these really helpful filters. So if you just want to see your online batches or your stock batches or something like that, you can filter here and it's going to update these numbers. The other nice thing about this is with these checkboxes, there's things that you can do in mass, like close, reconcile, report, delete. Now you'll notice it only gives me the options for things that I can do based on the number of checkboxes I've selected there. And so there are some restrictions. You can only close a batch if they're balanced. And you'll notice that if there's a red dot next to it, it means it's not balanced. So if I went over and I unchecked all of these, but if I wanted to say just select these 3, I could go and close those. We also added a new option for reconcile, which is an optional thing that you can use, but it's another way of tagging a batch that you have done the export of, whether you're reconciling that with your bank, reconciling that with your general ledger, however you handle that. If you want an extra way of classifying and knowing which of your closed bundles have actually been reconciled, you can mark those as reconciled. And you'll notice that's not an option here because first I would have to close these and then you can reconcile any closed batch. A few other things there, you can run a report, which is actually really helpful to be able to see several different batches all in one place. One note here is that both this multi-batch report and the individual batch report over here are customizable. And so if you haven't seen in our documentation, we have several different options that you can choose from, including a detail report, a summary report. There's reports that you can have where it has a download button to download that to your general ledger. So there's all kinds of versions. If you need something customized that would make it easier for your process, that's something we can do for a small additional fee. Our consulting team can take that. But we try to make this as easy as possible to manage your batches here. And so let me show you a few features here in an actual batch that are new and will hopefully give you some new kind of bells and whistles here. First and foremost, you now see your estimates here clearly up front. So it's really clear and easy to know whether a batch is balanced or not. And then as soon as one is balanced, it's going to give you that option to close one. When adding an entry, there's a few new things that you'll see here, including now the ability to scan in non-contributions. This is in preparation for phase 2, which I'll talk about at the end of the webinar and what's coming with that. But if you have checks that you are scanning, you could scan those now into Touchpoint and mark them as non-contributions. And you can also use this for registration credit to be able to lower somebody's amount due on their registration and mission trips. So you can search for a registration and then it's going to allow you to search and find only the people that are in that involvement to give those registration credits. So those are a few new things there. Soft credit is coming in phase 2 as well. So I'll talk about that. But hopefully people are getting used to this. It is a little bit of a change. We have released a number of new things. So if you missed the blog on Monday, please check that out. And a quick announcement on one thing that is coming is we are going to actually bring back inline editing within the batch for fund, type, and amount in inline splitting. So watch out for that. And hopefully you're enjoying these new features and stay tuned for phase 2 on that. On pledges, let me show you this. If your church uses pledges, any funds that are set as a pledge fund will show up here and you'll see I have it filtered right now just a capital campaign, but you can select multiple here and it's going to total all of those, both the amount pledged, total to pledge, total not to a pledge, and pledge balance. This is really helpful in terms of being able to filter by various criteria. You also have this really helpful chart that visualizes it, and we've added a new feature here for setting a goal. The previous pledge fulfillment report is now accessible by clicking on one of these bars, and that will download. And you also have a new export up here that's going to export all of the data down here based on what is filtered up top. So hopefully that makes managing your pledges easier. Also, the pledge entry is all done now on this page and no longer done in batches. And then lastly is account codes. In case you haven't seen this, this is managed under finance setup account codes. It's one of the lookup codes, and we have now standardized these. So any previous account codes that you had in your system have been added. We encourage you to clean this up. Everything was imported as a code and a description. So we ask that, most churches have a code, which is some kind of a number, and then some kind of a description that is used for the ministry side. So when you're on an event registration, on an involvement, this is what those staff see as just the description. And then on the finance side, in all of our reports, you're going to see either the code and the description, or the code. So we've tried to just really make this easy to manage. If you find duplicates, you can merge them and delete them. You can deactivate one. So in this example, we have our South Campus and our main campus are live, but we've set up the account codes for North Campus, but it's not live yet. So we've deactivated those codes right now. So you can quickly and easily add new ones there. And this also ties into what I was talking about here, related to whenever you are managing something and you add it as a non-contribution, then it changes to an account code there and gives you an easy selection there. So again, any of these tax deductible, non-tax deductible, stock, and gift in kind will show you a fund, but if it's non-contribution, that's going to go to an account code. So that is the finance changes. One other thing, let's move on to media and resources. So I think I talked about this a little bit on the last webinar, where we had rolled out the changes to the media and resource management. There are a few changes we've made on this page, primarily around now you have the ability to move things from a different tab or to a group. You still have the drag and drop function, but the drag and drop is really just for reordering within a grouping here. A few other things are that if a resource, let me find one here, is say a PDF, which it looks like I don't have any set up in here, unfortunately. New PDF. Then, oh, I think I lost where I was. There I am. Okay, so if I'm in a PDF, we did some things here to make it easier to upload documents and see those and see the max file size and things like that. So that's some things that we changed on the media management. But on the profile side now, these are changes that are rolling out next week, is that if you start using these additional media types, this is what's going to be available next week. So everything right now that you would be creating is free form. We would encourage you to actually set your media types to the specific media types. And this is what helps optimize it for the mobile app. So if you have, say, a video resource, you can choose from the different video type formats and then enter the URL in there. And those now will populate both on the resources tab of a person as well as in the new mobile app, optimized for that experience where they will play within the app. And so I'll be talking about mobile app 3.0 at the end, but just wanted to mention that these new resource types will be available to all churches next week, and that we have added the support on the front end as well as in the back end on management, and this will tie into the new mobile app. The next thing I want to point out is some new reports that are available for churches using Touchpoint Giving. So under the reports menu, let me refresh this. I've had some of these pages open for a while. Under the reports menu, you will now see some new report options. And these are some specialized reports. These are the first 3 of about 10 reports that we'll be launching for Touchpoint Giving churches to help you further analyze your data. And so I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot of those. The first one is a first-time giving report where you can select a date range, the campus, funds, and you can choose whether you're looking at individual givers or whether you want givers grouped in a household, meaning you wouldn't want to, if somebody else in the household is given, you may not want to send them a first-time giver acknowledgement or something. And so this will tell you how many givers on the various dates in the date range, and then it will list those, and you can click through to see those people and check out their household giving as well. The next report allows you to see increased giving and decreased giving. And so in this report, I'm showing basically year-to-date last year compared to year-to-date this year, and you can set whatever custom date ranges you want to compare them. You can even select funds, and it will then tell you how many people have increased their giving and the difference and percentage, and how many people have decreased their giving and their percentage. So this is a test database, so there's not a ton of records in here, but we've been running this on lots of different databases, and it's a really helpful, very powerful report. And lastly, this is something that was announced in this last quarter, but it's been out for a while. So I just wanted to mention that the new volunteer scheduler tool is live on all churches. And so this is available to be used. There's some great tools and features of this. I'm not going to go into too much depth here, but I will just mention a few things around. You can have your meetings be scheduled using time slots, or you can do single meetings to add ad hoc meetings. For example, on Easter or Christmas, where you might have special services, or for VBS, you might want to just use ad hoc where they're not repeating meetings, but you just want to create the different meetings that you want. You can create different sub teams here. You can add people individually, or you can add people by subgroup. And this has some really nice features here where you can sort and filter those to be able to say, I want all the balcony people. You can choose whether to add them by time slot, all week ones into perpetuity, or every week and every other week are the different options. You can even say whether they're committed or not, which is how it shows on the calendar, and some other features there. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. There are a few little tweaks that I know several of you have requested or reported that we are in final testing on some of those changes that should go out because of the holiday. I think they're planning to go out probably at the end of next week into the following week. So they should be fresh on the database, on everybody's database at the beginning of that next week. So Volunteer Scheduler is live. We hope you are enjoying it. And we'd love to hear your feedback. And Haley, I think I will turn it back over to you for the rest of the features, and I'll join back for some updates on things that are coming.
All right. Here we go. So next up, we'll be talking about a few enhancements to involvements. And so first, we have updated the involvements export. And so this is available from the blue toolbar, as we see from inside of an involvement search. And so it's been enhanced to include several more options, and also to include some extra values. So several fields, I should say, and extra values. And so if you haven't used this export before, it's got a lot of great use cases, but one common use case is that it's really helpful when updating involvements in mass. And of course, you can read more about it inside of our documentation. And so now registration. So the confirmation email that we see here, the email from, has been updated. So now we can include more than 6 people on this email from at once. And so you can list more people, and all of these people will receive the notification whenever someone registers. And still, the same rules apply. The first person listed here will be the person who this email comes from to the registrant. And now we're going to move on to tasks and notes. And a few quick updates here. So involvement notes, it's now possible to delete these. And we've got a few Python functions that are available, some new Python calls. And so thanks to James at 10th Pres and Ben at First Baptist Hendersonville, we appreciate y'all's suggestions and creating these. And so because of y'all, these are possible. So now these options are able to update a task in mass. So you can automatically assign folks to a task in mass. That's one of the options. You could retrieve a keyword. That's another option. And then we could also mass update the status on tasks as well. So you can learn more about those inside of our documentation also. And of course, I think I did mention, but those are using Python. And then on the tasks and notes search page, by default, now we see 100 entries at a time. So 100 tasks and notes at a time. So actually, it's not just limited to the tasks and notes search page. This is also the same rules apply for whenever we're looking at tasks and notes on a profile as well, so on a people person or people record. And the tasks and notes details, we've also expanded this. And so now you can enter far more notes here if you would like. And so the details can accept up to 5,000 characters. All right, so we're going to talk about check-in. And really mostly what we're talking about for check-in relates to the fields on people records. And so for changes that are made during check-in, these will show on a change log on a person's people record. So if you're looking at the people record, that's on the System Changes tab. And for allergies, if someone indicates no or none or NA, so a lot of times they might put that as an answer to a question during a registration. So of course that gets saved to the people record. Well, that isn't going to print any longer whenever you're printing labels. And if you choose to include allergies, those options won't print. The origin and entry point. So the origin field for new records that are created during check-in is automatically going to be set to visit. And then the entry point, we can configure these per check-in profile. And so we can set those per individual profile, however you're using your profiles. And then building check-in notes, those are going to get stored on the registrations tab. And so there's a box there. It says building check-in, and you can store notes there. And so those are visible there, and they can be edited there as well. All right, let's talk about background checks and volunteer classes. So we've got a couple of new search builder conditions. These were created for reporting on volunteer classes that are not part of our integrations with Ministry Safe or Protect My Ministry. And so we can hopefully see the names here: volunteer class status code and volunteer class taken months ago. And so you can read about those in our documentation as well. And there is a new role. It's called background check run. And so that's been created to allow a person with this role to run a new background check, and they're able to view the background check and credit checks section on the people record, but they're not able to view the actual background report. All right, and I think this is the last thing I'm covering, engagement scores. So we've got a couple of new engagement score settings. And so by default, I'm going to talk about this graphic that we have on the left first. So by default, the engagement score that we see, or the highest number here where this arrow is pointing, is the highest value is dictated by the highest bar that we have on the report. And so we see here, this is at 90 because the highest bar that we have on the screen right now is 85. So looking at this, it might appear that this individual has really great engagement. or at least at periods of time, have really great engagement. But the highest value, highest possible points might not actually be 90. It might be 120. So looking at this graphic over here, so we now have a setting to where we can enter in what the total possible engagement score points are. So now after we do that, and we're looking at the same person's people record, we really get a more accurate snapshot of what their engagement looks like. So they never were really quite up there at the top of, being as most engaged as they could be. So we can more accurately represent that. And then also we're able to change the title here. So this says engagement score. This is the default, but there is a setting that we can now change it. So I just changed it to engagement points. But, if you're measuring engagement for a certain area of the church, like if you're measuring your engagement, you just want to call it connectedness or something like that. Of course, you could change this to whatever you like. All right, Chris, do you want to talk about what's coming soon?
Yes. All right. So I've already alluded to a few of these things. The first one here is the finance changes phase 2. So Haley, I got a list there that we'll go through. The first is finance enhancements phase 2. And so what does that entail? There's a short list there. So event registrations are now going to show up in batches. This is going to make it possible for you to then reconcile everything all in one place. Don't worry, there's going to be easy kind of filtering, and there already is on some of the totals by fund reports. Some of the new batch reports now will show both the breakdown of account code and fund. So if you're using a custom report and it doesn't have the account codes in there, just reach out to us. We can help you get that updated. But all the standard reports have been updated, and all the ones that are available in our documentation have been updated to include account code and fund. We're also going to make it so that batches now, all the transactions as they process will go into a pending batch. And then as those batches close and have a batch close date, they will move into, as those transactions close, they will move into a batch with the corresponding batch date. And so it'll be super easy to reconcile your deposits in the bank with your batches, and those batches will auto close. And I already mentioned soft credits, but I'll just talk about that for a second here in case you don't know what that is. This is the ability if somebody, say, gives through a foundation or a donor advised fund, and you want to track those actually to the foundation or donor advised fund as opposed to just putting them directly on the person's record as a non-tax deductible item, you can put them in as a soft credit. And those soft credits will allow them to reduce their pledge balance, but it will not show, say, on the statement, unless you want to add an optional setting, but it's going to show in a different way as traditional tax deductible items. So it's the ability to quickly and easily associate gifts to a person that may have come from a business or an entity, a foundation, a donor advised fund, something like that. So phase 3, just a reminder of that, is that we are combining transactions and contributions into one page to make it easier for you to find and manage all of your items. You probably have noticed already, I didn't talk about this, but there are some changes that we did make to the contribution search. That is kind of a precursor for what is to come, where there's going to be, better filtering and the ability to find all of that in one place and manage it all in one place. So we are hard at work at phase 2, and phase 3 is all specced out and will be started right after phase 2. Process builder, I've been talking about this for a long time. We have made some major progress in this last quarter. We are in some kind of final testing of some rework on the back end. One of the things we realize is as we continue to add more features, we needed to rework the way some of this worked so that it can be scalable and performant, and covers just the multitude of ways that you can use a process builder. So we are buttoning up some of those items right now and hope to have this out very soon, out of beta. We have a lot of churches using it and giving great feedback on that. So we are close to wrapping up some of the process builder things. And the next big project we're working on, if you remember hearing about this at Summit, is a report building, which is basically a tool that will come from the blue toolbar where you can find a list of people from lots of places, right? You can use this on an involvement. You could use it on a person. You could use it on a tag or a search builder where you have a list of people, but the criteria about those people that you might want to view, say how much they gave or whether they attended something, whether they're in a certain involvement, all of those different columns to build that export will be buildable in a very simple to use graphic user interface where you can just use drop downs. You won't need to know any kind of code to do that. And it'll be super easy for you to run custom reports on the list of people that you want to run them on. So that we have it all specced out and getting started on that. Hope to have more to show at Summit, as that is one of the last things that we announced last year at Summit for this year's roadmap. So stay tuned for that. There's also a lot more that is in the works that we haven't shared, various things that either weren't on the roadmap or that we'll talk about when they get released next quarter. And that new features webinar, if you're not aware, happens as part of Summit. So we talk about everything that happened this last year. We do a webinar after Summit to share about those updates, but if you haven't caught on by now, we strongly encourage you to attend Summit. This is where a great time to network with other churches, a great time to hear about everything that we're working on and learn how to best utilize the system for your church.
Now, not that I don't want to talk about Summit, but didn't you have something else you wanted to?
There is one more update. So who wants to hear an update on Mobile 3.0? So we have been working hard at work. We have several churches that are in the setup phase right now that are going to be going into beta, getting beta apps in July. So the week after I get back from vacation, we have a meeting set where we're going to be reviewing some of those settings and getting some beta apps out. And so I have some screenshots to share, actually a lot of screenshots. So this these first three shots that you're seeing, one is after you log into the app, we've provided a way for you to add simple tools, basically tooltips for features like how to use the app, things that people might want to do when they first download the app that they might find helpful. And so you can customize these for your church. And we're going to provide some templates for some ones that you might want to consider, but if you want to change those or customize, you're able to do. The next thing you're seeing are some screenshots from the actual feed. And you'll see at the top, we have added the ability to do alerts where those pin to the top per person. These are sent from the blue toolbar. So you are sending messages to specific people that you want. So it's not hey, I'm sending it to everybody, but you can actually send from the blue toolbar in Touchpoint specific alerts, or right below that, you'll see messages. And so you can customize. And in this top one, it's no nursery. So I sent that to, it's a demo app right now, but the idea is you could send that to everybody that has kids that are enrolled in a nursery class, and it would be pinned to the top of their feed. Right below that, I might send that to everybody that has kids or that's volunteered in the past to VBS. Below that, you're seeing the ministries that people can follow. And then on the third shot there, you're actually seeing I'm following the children's ministries. So I'm seeing updates about what's happening. And then I'm actually seeing a list of events right below that I could filter by different categories. And I could click on those to register very quickly and easily because the system knows who I am. So let's keep going. I got a few other shots to show. This is what the prayer feed will look like. And you can actually click and pray, mark that you're praying for somebody, which gives somebody some encouragement and a little notification. This is the giving page has what we call giving impact cards, where you can customize what message the donor sees based on what you know about them. So you might have different giving impact cards for somebody who has recurring giving set up versus somebody who's never made a gift on record to the church, or somebody who gives to missions or is interested in children's ministry or something like that. So those cards are customized based on status flags. And then the make a gift opens up the giving page where you're authenticated, and you can also view your giving history and statements right there in app. And then media has a whole new layout. And so, as I mentioned earlier, this pulls from the media and resources section within Touchpoint, and it all plays within a beautiful in-app experience. And it supports video, audio, PDF, live streams, web links, and I think I'm missing one other there, Freeform, which is HTML or however you want to format that. So that is the media library. It's searchable there at the top. And then on the next screen, just wanted to show you a few screenshots of the newly designed profile. So in the upper right-hand corner or from the menu, so on the right side, you're seeing the menu where with the links to your profile. Somebody can view their own profile and edit that. They can upload photos or a photo. They can see their involvements, manage their family members. And then on the right-hand side, you're seeing the profile menu, the main menu, which allows for directory search has been moved up to more prominent. The event listing has a prominent link. This is where things like pre-check-in and some other features will be added here, chat as well, in a future version. So this is the MVP of the app. We are hard at work already on some of the other additional features that will be rolling out later this summer and into the fall. And we are very excited to be showing this off at Summit. You may be wondering or asking, how do I get more information? When is it my turn to upgrade? So right now we are working with a handful of churches that are going to get the first version. And as soon as we get that next version out, which we're going to be calling kind of a 3.1 version, we will announce in the blog and give churches the opportunity to opt into that. And we will tell you which features are available, because there are, even though 3.0 adds a lot of features that weren't in 2.0, there are a few features that we have not completed yet that were in 2.0. So we're trying to get feature parity with 2.0 by Summit to add those additional features. And as those versions are ready, we will be announcing that so that you can sign up for your opportunity to upgrade. And everything is all managed within the Touchpoint portal. There's no separate mobile app login. It's all managed with some new settings. And there's a lot of new things that we will be talking about and showing at Summit. So that's all. I will leave some more for a later webinar, but just wanted to give you a heads up of what's coming with mobile.
All right. Thanks so much, Chris. So next up are the announcements, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about Summit, is the big announcement that I have here that I'm excited to share with y'all. So if you come to our Summit landing page, and that's summit.touchpointsoftware.com, this will give you all the information about Summit. If you don't know by now, it is in Chicago, September 19th through 21st. But the thing that I'm really excited about, we can click on sessions, and we now have available all of our breakout sessions. So we've got quite a lineup for you, from partner churches to ministry partners. So many of your fellow Touchpointiers, I guess, will be leading Summit sessions. So you're going to be able to learn some tips and tricks from folks who use particular features. And this year's Summit is our biggest one yet. Touchpoint is bringing over 20 of our team members there. So we're excited to have a large group of the Touchpoint team there as well. And also, of course, as you can tell by looking at some of these sessions, Touchpoint staff, we're going to be leading some of the sessions as well.
Hey, Lee, sorry to interrupt, but we're not seeing your slides.
Oh, thank you. All right. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, you're seeing the Summit website.
Okay.
Now. Awesome.
All right. So the website is summit.touchpointsoftware.com, and then just click on sessions. So that's how I got where I thought y'all were seeing. The one thing that we're excited to introduce this year as well is a tech lab. And so you can sneak away during one of the sessions and visit some folks in the tech lab. So if you want to get some live support or chat with a developer, you'll be able to do that. So again, as you navigate between the different days, you can see who's going to be in the tech lab at what time. So we hope y'all can join us. Again, summit.touchpointsoftware.com. If you have any specific questions, you can email us at summit@touchpointsoftware.com. And I think that basically covers all of it. So we can go into questions now.
Yeah, so I've been reading through these as you were talking about Summit. Somebody is asking about detailed info about entering information into batches. So there's three main ways that you can do that. One is using our check scanning software. You can actually scan checks or envelope images into the software. And if it has already been matched to a user, it will automatically match. The second way is to import. So if you have, say, an export from your bank or from some kind of platform where it puts it into Excel, we have an import feature that'll allow you to import those. And again, those will match if there's some kind of a matching ID or way to match those. And the third is just to enter them each manually. So you can open a new batch and you can click on the add entry. We've made it super easy so that as you're clicking through that, you should be able to stay on your keypad and not need to enter your mouse unless you're doing something unique like making a split or something like that, but it'll just keep allowing you to add and keep adding new entries. All of that should be covered in our documentation. But if you have additional questions, you could probably reach out to support for more information. Someone's asking as well, Haley, I'll jump into this one, and asking about phase 2. So I don't have, unfortunately, a hard date on that right now. We have made a lot of progress. This is going to take a lot of testing, as you could imagine. So we are hoping to get this out as soon as possible, but there is still a bit of work to do and quite a bit of testing for that. We are hoping to have that out at some point, probably late summer for phase 2. We are working as fast as possible, but we want to make sure that what we do does not cause any issues for any of our churches, since this is such an important area for you. So we are hard at work at that, and we'll update you as we know more. And just like phase 1, we will probably do a separate webinar on this, or at least a FAQ like we did, some blog post, making sure that you are aware of what's happening. The documentation will be updated, and we will be announcing that with plenty of notice. So to take into account anybody's vacations and people being in and out of the office, things like that. So stay tuned, but we're definitely several weeks away from phase 2 at least. And where is the documentation about entering tithes? So if you're on, maybe one of us can follow up and send a link to you. But basically, if you go to, Haley's got her screen shared. You can go here to our documentation site, docs.touchpointsoftware.com. And if you go down under contributions and finance, there's all kinds of information there. So under contributions, there's the manually entered contributions, there's scanned checks and imported contributions, and online contributions I already missed. But if you're using one of our integrated payment processors, then that is the fourth way that contributions get entered. And so under contribution workflow there, it shows you those 4 different ways that contributions get entered. So, all right, we answered, it looks like, a lot of questions offline. There's some specific things that I will probably follow up with offline with some folks. I don't see any other questions, and I know we are kind of right at the top of, we usually try to keep this to 45 minutes. So we want to respect everybody's time. We thank you for joining us right before the long weekend. Hope everybody has a safe, fun 4th of July weekend. And thank you for joining us on this webinar. Hopefully, we hope you're enjoying these new features, and stay tuned. We have a lot more coming as the summer goes on. So again, if you don't have that blog widget on your homepage, we'd encourage you to definitely pay attention to that. We do blog about things as they get released. We are updating the documentation. That's probably your best way. And then our monthly newsletter as well usually has a summary of those things. So make sure you don't miss that, and hope everybody has a safe, fun rest of your summer.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.
Everyone.